When do you go to the bathroom? Do you stay there for a long time? An hour? No, nobody does that. If you do, oh, you got a serious problem. Same thing. The ACT and the SAT are necessities to get into colleges, and you just need to get done quickly. But the prize, if you plan to continue your study beyond the undergraduate level, the very same elements you learned in the ACT and the SAT study will apply exactly the same way for the grad exams, such as the GRE, GMAT, MCAT, LSAT, you name one. So, if you are aiming beyond the undergrad level, you might want to study effectively for the ACT and the SAT, so that you can apply the same super effective strategy for grad exams. How do you study effectively for the ACT or the SAT? The first step, it's very important, is to acknowledge that the ACT and the SAT are vastly different from the exams and quizzes you take in high schools or colleges. Maybe you could argue that they are similar to school exam formats because they are timed, you are time constrained, and have this anxiety that can affect your actual test performance. However, I can assure you that school exams and the ACT or the SAT are totally different. Why? It's because the way they are designed from the beginning is totally different. The purpose itself is different. In school or college, the purpose of taking quizzes or exams is to measure and check if you have successfully gained the required knowledge in the course. For example, take literature. Say you are studying Shakespeare plays and have to memorize all plots and symbols for Romeo and Juliet. Your teacher would expect you to read all Romeo and Juliet scripts and be able to analyze them on your own. For the ACT and the SAT, on the other hand, they are nationwide standardized exams that must test tons of students from various backgrounds, cultures, and education levels. Let's say that the same Romeo and Juliet appeared in the ACT or the SAT as a reading passage question. How would this be different from the classroom exam? The answer lies in the nature of the standardized exam. While classroom exams and quizzes simply measure what you learned so far, they don't have to worry about the context of the test takers. I mean, you are already part of their schools. What more to consider about the context of the exam setting? But the ACT and the SAT must consider all external factors. Every test problem is designed by heavily paid professional test problem makers so that it will not create any controversies. In other words, the same Romeo and Juliet passage in the ACT or the SAT must make sure that it will have no outside knowledge required. Why? Some students might not have read Romeo and Juliet in their schools. Because of this, with no judgment called factor, the ACT and the SAT have to be designed in a very different way compared to classroom exams. Every question must be able to be solved within 30 seconds. All text and labels must be important and relevant. All problems are objective. In some classroom quizzes, you can appear for more partial points by arguing with the teachers or professors. But the ACT and the SAT are designed to avoid that at all. So that's why you can find all answers within the passages or problems. While classroom setting exams must bring your outside knowledge in, the ACT and the SAT must utilize what is inside the test. So there is no ambiguity. The test itself tries to be as objective as possible, and it tries to quickly measure your set of ability so that colleges can objectively see your performance level. Hence, I emphasize the most important step in taking the ACT or the SAT. Realize and acknowledge that they are different from regular exams, and that they must be studied in different ways. So, how will your study strategy be different? First of all, know that all evidence is in the test, especially for reading problems. Don't ever judge based on your outside knowledge. Hunt down for hints in the passage. If you can back up your answer choice with evidence from the passage, you are good to go. So you will need to develop your skill to hunt and look for evidence in reading passages. Secondly, practice vertical reading the answer choices. All answer choices are multiple choices, but they differ in patterns. I've already done a video on this, so check it out. You need to practice it. And this vertical reading also help you for other standardized exams as well if you plan to take one in the future. Thirdly, practice so that you can answer questions without reading the whole thing. Every math and English problem in the ACT and the SAT is designed in a way that you can answer in under 30 seconds. Of course, at first it will take some time to answer correctly, but as you practice, find ways to shorten the time it takes to answer questions. The goal of the ACT and the SAT reading is not to understand the entire passages. Rather, you are only required to answer only what the question is asking. If you are able to develop your skill to quickly track down evidence in passages, you can shorten the time it takes to answer each question even for reading. So what these three strategies tell you about the ACT and the SAT? That you need to practice taking the test. For the ACT and the SAT, you seriously need to practice it over and over again. Know where you're at in terms of a performance level and shorten your problem-solving time with a high accuracy as possible. It all begins with one thing, realizing that the ACT and SAT require different strategies. If you have any questions, let me know down in the comments, and more amazing videos will come up, so like and subscribe. See you again.